Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikita and this is a video about the painting called Abstract Series number 2.3. In today's video I'm gonna talk about two main questions. First question is gonna be a quick overview of the meaning of the series, and the second is going to be how do I build my compositions. So the series itself is abstract, and no surprise if you are familiar with my practice, I am an abstract painter myself, but unlike some other works, there is no meaning laying behind and there is no visual representation from the real world which I'm using to paint the painting. And I'm using this series purely to develop my visual language and to get better as a painter, but also try to find new techniques which can be identifiable just with me. And after all, you gotta get your hours in painting, and it's not always I have something to talk about in my practice. When there is something quite emotional and quite important for me which needs to be talked about for art, I will talk about it, but if not, I will still paint. And essentially that is the reason why this series does not have any particular meaning. But one of the meanings is to learn the composition. And the composition is a very important detail of making art. Like, I can imagine a lot of beginner painters might neglect composition quite a fair bit, especially if you, for example, painting a landscape and you're just copying from the real existing landscape. If you exclude the composition basing and the composition planning, then you might have slightly unbalanced painting, which a lot of people might not even notice that it's imbalanced, but people with trained eye will do. And when it comes to the abstract painting, it's also important to build your own composition. And in this series, I'm pretty much building the compositions out of my existing forms in the practice. Nothing more, nothing less. When I make my composition, most of the times start with a big form. I start in my sketchbook and I try to come up with multiple different ideas of more or less where can I place my forms. But these ideas are gonna be only the outlines. They're never gonna be a final, perfectly good sketch in the sketchbook, because after all, I'm coming to the final conclusions onto the canvas itself. So make the sketches, and I have more or less around 5-7 different forms thrown around the paper. And out of the ones I did, I choose like my favorite one, which I would use for the painting. And then I start placing them. I start with the bigger forms first, because they work as an orienteer for the rest of the painting. And after every single form, I try to actually double check if it works good enough. And every time I paint something, especially when building a composition, I always try to evaluate every single step. And then I start throwing the smaller forms. And with every single small form, I'm trying to balance against the rest of the painting, so it doesn't become unbalanced and it doesn't become hard to look at, because the painting has to be like a nice and comfortable thing to rest your eye. Not necessary, but it can be. After a while, I build my form, and in my next step, I introduce the line. The line is a very important part of my practice. You can see in this painting as this like crazy, messy line with drips. And why is it important? Is because it connects all the forms together, and it actually binds them, and what makes it work. Because for some reason, forms on their own, in my practice, they feel a bit empty. And because I also really like having empty space around, which is like the background, some neutral space, and forms just on the neutral space, they feel a bit naked. So I use the line to wrap it around. Because my compositions are quite simple, they don't need a lot of thinking. They need some good intuition, and they need a little bit of balancing around. But in general, most of the thinking in terms of composition is done literally in the first session of the practice. And also what's very important is that when I'm making composition, I kind of have to be in the mood. I have to listen to a good music which inspires me. I have to be relaxed, and I don't have to feel stressed about other things, because otherwise it's gonna ruin the painting, and that is very important. I hope you enjoyed hearing about me building the composition, and in the next video I'm gonna see the final and fourth painting of the series, and I will be looking very much to see you there. Goodbye.